The European Union is claiming
human rights.
that people are drowning on its doorstep.
We call this politics of letting die.
The EU is struggling to deal with migration, with severe consequences.
The global migration crisis, the human story behind the borders. In the 21st century, humanity stands at a crossroad. We are more connected than ever by technology, trade, and communication, yet more divided by fear, geography, and politics. And nowhere is this contradiction more visible than in the global migration crisis that doesn't just move across borders but through the confines of the world itself. Every minute, an average of 20 people are forced to leave their homes. They don't pack suitcases for adventure or ambition. They flee from war, hunger, persecution, or a climate that has turned against them. This isn't just a story of displacement. It's a story of power, privilege, and global inequality. The scale of movement. The numbers are staggering. According to the United Nations, over 281 million people, that's about 1 in every 30 human beings, now lives outside their country of birth. Around 170 million of them are displaced due to conflict, violence, or disaster. Behind these numbers are millions of individual lives. A mother crossing the Mediterranean with her child, a farmer leaving a drought-ravaged village in Sudan, a young man walking from Venezuela to Colombia because his salary at home can't buy a loaf of bread. We call it migration crisis, but maybe it's not migration that's in crisis. It's the world that made migration inevitable. The root causes. Migration doesn't just begin with movement. It begins with the collapse of governments, economies, ecosystems, and social trust. In Syria, civil war displaced over 13 million people, half the country's population. In Venezuela, economic freefall drove nearly 8 million people to flee hunger and inflation. From Myanmar's Rohingya genocide to Sudan's ethnic conflict, millions are trapped in a loop of displacement and despair. And beyond conflict lies another invisible enemy, climate change. The World Bank warns that by 2050, over 200 million people could be forced to migrate due to floods, droughts, and rising sea levels. Entire communities in Bangladesh, the Pacific Islands, and sub-Saharan Africa are already living on borrowed time. When a farmer's field dries up, when a fisherman's coast disappears, migration isn't a choice, it's a survival. The politics of borders. But when these survivors reach the borders of wealthier nations, they don't find safety, they find suspicion. Europe deploys drones and fences to stop desperate people arriving by boat. The United States debates walls, visas, and zero-tolerance policies. Australia detains refugees in remote islands, and rich countries spend billions on border control, but far less on addressing why people are migrating in first place. This is the hypocrisy of the modern world. Nations that benefited from centuries of colonization now criminalize those escaping the aftermath of it. Even the language tells you everything. People are no longer refugees or seekers of safety. They are called illegals, as if survival itself is a crime. The burden of the global south. Ironically, most migrants don't even go to Europe or North America. The largest burdens are borne by poorer nations themselves. Turkey hosts nearly 4 million refugees, mostly from Syria. Bangladesh shelters over 1 million Rohingyas in overcrowded camps. Lebanon, a country smaller than many Indian states, hosts 1 refugee for every 3 citizens. These nations do this not because they can afford to, but because they must. Yet international aid is shrinking. Refugee programs remain underfunded, and host countries are left struggling to manage what should be shared as a global responsibility. Meanwhile, political leaders in developed nations hold conferences, issue statements, and then quietly outsource the problem to poorer neighbors. The economic dimension. migration. But migration isn't just a humanitarian issue. It's also deeply economic. Migrant workers power global industries from construction in the Middle East to agriculture in Europe and caregiving in the West. They clean homes, build cities, and keep economies running. In 2023, migrants from $860 billion back home in remittances, more than all foreign aid combined, yet they remain politically voiceless and socially invisible. When economies need them, they are called essential workers. When politics needs a villain, they're suddenly outsiders. The climate migration, the coming wave. Next wave of migration won't be driven by board but by weather. Rising seas threaten to wipe out low-lying island nations like Tuvalu and Kiribati. Prolonged droughts in Africa and South Asia are already killing crops and livestock. The Ganges Delta, one of the most fertile regions on earth, could see millions displaced by flooding. But here's the catch. Under current international law, climate refugees do not legally exist. The 1951 Refugee Convention protects those fleeing persecution or war, not those fleeing on a collapsing ecosystem. That means millions could lose not only their homes, but right to even ask for protection. The human cost. It's easy to talk about numbers, harder to confront what they mean. In Mediterranean, over 28,000 people have died trying to reach Europe since 2014. In the US-Mexico desert, migrants die of dehydration, exposure, or smugglers' violence. And in Asia, entire families disappear at sea, their stories untold, their names forgotten. Migration is often portrayed as a threat, but the real threat is what happens when humanity stops caring about human beings. Media narratives are also fueling fear. Migrants are portrayed as invaders, job stealers, or cultural threats. Politicians exploit this fear for votes, promising to take back control. But studies show that migration, when managed properly, strengthens economies, enriches societies, and even stabilizes aging populations. The crisis, therefore, isn't of migration, it's of management, of misinformation, and of moral imagination. The international response. The United Nations and the NGOs continue to call for a shared responsibility, but global cooperation remains weak. The Global Compact for Migration, adopted in 2018, was a step forward, yet it's non-binding. Countries sign it for moral credit, not for practical action. And as nationalism rises and global trust declines, migrants become convenient scapegoats for every domestic problem, from unemployment to inflation. But ignoring migration doesn't make it disappear. It simply makes it even more dangerous. There's also a silent psychological crisis that comes with displacement, trauma, identity loss, and generational instability. Children born in refugee camps often grow up stateless, without schools or citizenship. Families are separated indefinitely. Cultures vanish in exile. For many, migration is not a single event, it's a lifelong sentence. And the world's compassion seems to expire faster than the headlines. The role of technology and surveillance. Even technology, once seen as a tool of liberation, has become part of the control mechanism. Drones monitor migration routes, AI predicts risk groups, and biometric systems track refugees like data points. Humanity is slowly being replaced by statistics. Security is valued more than sympathy, and while governments argue about borders, corporations quietly profit from the surveillance economy built on fear. The moral paradox. The world that celebrates globalization refuses to accept its human consequences. We demand cheap products, stable energy, and open markets, yet reject the workers and refugees who make those systems function. The paradox is painful. We globalized capital, not compassion. Until humanity realizes that migration is not a crime, but a consequence, the crisis will only deepen. Lessons from the history. History reminds us that migration has always been a part of human evolution. Civilizations have risen and fallen through movement, the Silk Route, the Great Migrations, the partition of India, the Jewish diaspora, the post-war resettlements. The difference today is that borders are harder, surveillance is stronger, and empathy is weaker. What can be done? Solutions exist. If there's political will, First Nations must treat migration as a shared human responsibility, not a national burden. Second, We need legal frameworks for climate refugees so that the displaced are not invisible in the eyes of international law. Third, investments in peace building, education, and climate resilience can prevent forced migration at its root. And finally, media and policymakers must reshape narratives from fear to fairness, from exclusion to inclusion. Migration isn't going away, but how we handle it will define moral character of the century. The global migration crisis is not about borders, it's about belonging. It's about whether humanity can coexist without dividing survival into legal and illegal. Every refugee, every migrant carries within them not just loss, but also resilience, courage, and the will to rebuild. The real question is, will the world build bridges for them or just taller walls for itself? Because in the end, migration isn't just their story, it's ours. Written across the maps we drew and the borders we still refuse to erase. Thank you.